Hello, my name is Aubrey, and today I have got another recent reads wrap-up video for you guys. I want to very quickly dedicate this video to my fiance, who very kindly took over my turn for doing dishes so that I could make this video tonight. He is also sitting in the bedroom with his noise-canceling headphones on so that I don't get self-conscious recording this, because this is just the busiest time of year for my work, my job. You know, there's a huge push before Christmas. Both he and I have been putting in like really long hours, really long days lately, hence the lack of content on my channel lately, and hence why I am filming this video at, I'm not wearing a watch, 7:30 at night. I just have not had a lot of time to film, and I have not had a lot of time to edit. Anyway, I just wanted to say a really big thank you to him because I know he's gonna watch this, and it was really sweet. Anyway, I have a lot of books here to talk about. I've read quite a lot since my last recent reads. I probably should have filmed this last week, but again, just have not had a lot of time. So I think I'm just gonna go in the order that I read them. We'll see how this video goes. First of all, I have volume 7 of Witch Hat Atelier. I am pretty sure I was in the middle of reading this when I recorded my last wrap up. This is such an excellent volume. We finally get a bunch of, I don't know, we get some answers to some questions, but there's still a lot of mystery to uncover. There are just like some really intriguing things that are revealed in this volume. I absolutely love this series. It is so whimsical and fun and magical. It's just really good. Highly recommend it. You know, I've talked about it a few times on my channel already, but you know, just if you are sleeping on the series, I highly recommend you to get into it. And I'm pretty certain I gave this volume 5 stars. Next, I finished Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. This is book 2 in the Daevabad trilogy and the sequel to City of Brass. This was really enjoyable, and I am liking this series so much. This book in particular was a little bit slower than City of Brass was. I found, you know, the pacing and the politics just, you know, to be a good bit slower. City of Brass had a little bit more adventure, a little bit more action. This was a lot of politics, a lot of, you know, characters plotting and planning and conniving, you know, that kind of thing. I continue to enjoy these characters a lot. I absolutely adore our main character Nahari, and I loved watching her development with Ali, and just, yeah, there was a lot to love in this particular book. The ending of this was super explosive, just in the same way that the City of Brass's ending was super explosive. I am really excited for the finale, Empire of Gold? Yeah, Empire of Gold, which I will be picking up really soon because I am just really loving this series, and I want to finish it up while it's all still really fresh in my mind. I just really love this world and the magic, and again, the characters and the atmosphere, and just all of it is really enjoyable. So yeah, look forward to a full trilogy review, hopefully, when I finally finish that 3rd book. Next, I finished Death Note. This is not actually all of the volumes. I see now that I'm missing volume 6. I did read it. It's just not here in this stack. I'm not sure what I did with it. I didn't end up loving this. I'm not even sure I ended up liking it, and I'm really upset about it. I remember reading the first few volumes when I was a teenager and the mangas were still being published, and the first, you know, I would say the first 6 volumes, really the first 4 volumes, are incredible. They are so strong, so solid. Just the premise of this series is incredibly interesting and intriguing and just has so much potential. And so, you know, for these first 3 bind-up editions, like, I was totally on board, flipping pages, super invested in the story, just really good. And then there's a choice that was made in volume 7 that just kind of derails the whole thing, and the series just starts to feel just way too long. I mean, it just went on way too long. It got really boring for me. I mean, the thing that happens in volume 7 is really, I mean, it's kind of an interesting twist. It's an interesting direction to go, but unfortunately, we just regurgitate the exact same plot that we just had, only way less interesting. And, unfortunately, there were just no characters that I was rooting for. I didn't want any particular side to win necessarily because of the characters. I guess maybe I should talk about what this series is about. For those who don't know, I mean, I'd be surprised because Death Note is kind of a phenomenon, but we're basically following this character named Light Yagami who gets a death note from a Shinigami, I think that's how you say it, which is basically a death god. And if you write someone's name in the death note, they will die. And our main character, Light, finds this death note, and he is basically just a sociopath, but he has this kind of logical moral compass. So he starts killing off criminals, and he starts killing them off by the hundreds. And he comes up against a detective who's trying to find out who he is and who's been killing all of these criminals. And, it's, I don't know, this like butting head chess match between these two incredibly intelligent people, and it's good at first. Like, it's really, really, really good at first. Unfortunately, the latter half of the series just did not hold my attention whatsoever, and I was really having to push myself to finish those last 3 bind-up editions because I just didn't care what was going to happen. And I also want to say that the sexism in this whole series is so blatant. Like, I haven't seen sexism quite so blatant in a long time. Like, as a fantasy lover and as a fantasy reader, like, I have a pretty high tolerance for like the poor treatment of women and just like the poor representation of female characters and that kind of thing. But like the female characters in this series are embarrassing. I mean, honestly, would just hate to be this mangaka. Like, oh my god. And I've been thinking about doing like a full series review for this manga because I didn't enjoy it, and just kind of going in depth on some of that sexism and some of that just horrible representation. So still haven't decided if I'm going to do that, but if that's a video that interests you, please let me know, because it's not good, folks. It's not good. So yeah, really, really disappointed with this. And I'm not even sure if I'm gonna keep all of these on my shelves, which sucks because I just bought these. I can't see myself ever rereading them, and I didn't like them, so whoops. Okay, next I read The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. I read The Raven Boys, The Dream Thieves, Blue Lily Lily Blue, The Raven King, and also the little short story that comes after called Opal. And you guys, I have never been so taken aback by a book / series. I've mentioned before on my channel a couple of times that I've DNF'd this book twice. It has a very slow beginning, but I finally decided to push through this year because I've had these books sitting on my shelves for years and years. And I just figured that either I needed to go ahead and read them or I needed to unhaul them and get them out of my life. And thank God I read them because I loved them so much. About halfway through this book, I don't know what happened. I really don't. I just fell in love with them and I ate them up. I blew through all 4 of these in about the span of a week, and I just loved them so much. I did a full series review if you're interested in like a more in-depth synopsis, some more in-depth thoughts on the series, but I absolutely loved it. I highly recommend it. If this is a series where you I tried it and couldn't get into it, please try it again. Please try to push through until the end of this book. I'm not saying that it will definitely change your mind, but it might, and this is just an absolute favorite of all time now. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. The characters are phenomenal. The characters are so good. They are so lovable and flawed and interesting and funny, and they just make this whole series fantastic. So yeah, I mean, just really good. I gave this one 4 stars. I gave the Dream Thieves 4.5 stars. I gave Blue Lily Lily Blue 4.5 stars, and I gave The Raven King 4 stars. I wasn't totally happy with this, but I did like it. I go, again, a little bit more into that in the full series review, if that interests you at all. Yeah, I absolutely loved it, and I can't wait to reread it. I might very well reread it next year come, September or October. It was the perfect atmospheric read for this fall time of year. It just won me over. It won me over completely. So yes, The Raven Cycle, now a favorite of all time. Yeah. Oh, I also gave Opal, the little short story that came at the end of the series, 5 stars. I loved it. I loved being in the point of view of Opal. She's such a cute character. I loved it. Yeah. Okay, next I read A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. It was fine. It was just all around okay. Things I liked. V.E. Schwab's writing. Chef's kiss. She is a gorgeous writer. I mean, the woman's prose have such character. They are so flavorful and delicious. She is an excellent writer. I love the concept of this book. I mean, 4 Londons with only a select few, magicians who can travel between the Londons, and the Londons have varying amounts of magic, and it's an amazing premise. And I liked Kell. I thought Kell was an all right character. I also really liked Holland, though I wish we had actually gotten some chapters in Holland's point of view, because I found him to be a more interesting character than Kell or anyone else, and I would have liked his point of view. And yeah, everything else, the plot was fine, the world building was fine. Delilah Bard is an infuriating character. She is just this frustrating kind of character. It's a very cocky, very confident character that has absolutely no business being as cocky and confident as they are, because they're completely in over their heads. Delilah is just in over her head. She doesn't know anything about magic. She doesn't know anything about these new worlds. And yet she just kind of struts around with this air of everything is just gonna work out for me. And the really frustrating thing is that it does. Everything just does work out for her. Things just go right for her when they really have no business doing that. And so she's never humbled by this attitude. She doesn't learn any lessons. She just flits through the story from one thing to the other, and everything just is fine. C's part for Delilah Bard. And it's just a very frustrating kind of character. You see it a lot. You see it a lot with male characters, where they have this very arrogant, very again, confident thing going for them. And I find it a lot with characters that are just really clearly self-inserts for the author. And, I don't know if that's what Delilah Bard is for V.E. Schwab, but just, again, she was put into several situations that just had no business going as well as they did, or, working out quite as neatly as they did. It's just kind of annoying, and it's frustrating. And it didn't help that I listened to this on audiobook, and the narrator gave her this super whiny, naive, immature voice, which I have no doubt is exactly how Delilah Bard sounds, but it didn't make me like her anymore. Yeah. I will be continuing on with the trilogy. I'm interested to see where V.E. Schwab goes with it. I've heard from several people that they thought that the second book was better. I've also heard from several people that the second book is complete filler and a waste of time. So, we'll see. This is just like such a popular series that I think even if the books are just 3-star reads, I'd like to read them all and just be able to say that I've read them. So yeah, I will be continuing on. Let me know if you've read this trilogy, if you think that the series gets better from here or not. Okay, next I read A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson, and I just decided to pick this up on a whim because I've been hearing some really, really good things about it. And I'm glad that I did because it was excellent. The writing in this novella is gorgeous. It's this Dracula retelling told from the point of view of one of his wives. And she's telling it kind of like she's talking to him and like almost like she's writing this letter of everything that had transpired in their relationship. And it is just like luscious, beautiful writing. And the story tells this heartbreaking, painful, abusive, manipulative relationship that she has with Dracula. And I enjoyed it immensely. I gave it 4.5 stars. Read it if you haven't. It was really, really good. I will say I've seen a lot of people pitching this as like a sapphic Dracula retelling, and while there is a sapphic relationship in the story, I feel like that pitch is a little bit misleading because the focus is definitely more on her relationship with Dracula. I don't know, I think if somebody was going into it purely for the sapphic elements, they might be disappointed because it's not a huge focus, but it is there, so a plus if that's something you're into. Next, I read The Shining by Stephen King. This was my King for the spooky season, and I really, really enjoyed this. This is very classic King. People consider this, quintessential King. I probably would have liked this more if I hadn't ever seen the movie because a lot of the same story beats happen in both the movie and the book. So, I kind of knew where certain things were going and like what was going to happen. There are definitely differences, and the book is more fleshed out than the movie was. And so I think if you are like a huge King fan, you should definitely still read this, even if you have seen the movie. But if you're just kind of a casual Stephen King fan, I don't know that this is gonna have a whole lot to offer you if you have seen the movie. Just being honest, like I think it comes down to kind of a personal preference if you're more of a book person versus like a movie person. And I don't want to go into spoilers, but it's which one you like more is going to depend on the kind of villain you like to see. In the movie, it's definitely Jack Torrance just kind of being a scary man. And in the novel, like it's very clear that it's the spooky haunted hotel that's really pulling the strings. And so, whether you like a sociopath killer on the loose versus like a haunted house possession situation might determine which one you would prefer. But yeah, I did really enjoy this. It's definitely similar to Pet Sematary, like a very slow, creeping build of horror. Not a lot happens. Not a lot happens until the very, very end where a lot happens. It's more just like a sprinkling of creepy stuff, a very ominous foreboding and heaviness and atmosphere and just, that kind of thing. So I gave this 4 stars. Then I read Coraline by Neil Gaiman. This was so good. I'm really, really enjoying Neil Gaiman's middle grade stories. I didn't enjoy this one quite as much as I enjoyed the Graveyard book, but I did still enjoy this quite a lot. I think Neil Gaiman is just a masterful writer. His prose are really beautiful, but they have like a nice Gaiman quirk to them. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm glad I read it. This would have scared the crap out of me when I was a kid, so I'm glad. I'm glad that I never read it when I was young because I would have had nightmares about this forever. and ever. Yeah, it is truly creepy, and it was a great read for, again, the spooky season. And if you were ever looking for something that is spooky and scary, but not, you know, too scary and not gory or anything like that, I highly recommend Coraline. All right, we are almost to the end, just 2 more to talk about. I read The Girl from the Other Side, Volume 1. I absolutely loved this. The art style is so interesting and creepy. This is a kind of fairy tale-esque story about it's a story kind of about a plague almost. There's this curse going around where if you are touched by someone with the curse, you turn into a monster and you lose all of your memories and, you know, you turn into a hideous beast. In the story, we are following this little girl who's been banished to the outside, the outskirts of civilization because they thought she had the curse. And so this, you know, this monster like takes her in and is taking care of her and just sort of like keeping her occupied and alive. And it's just so sweet. Their relationship is adorable. But then, you know, there's a lot of danger in terms of being discovered and being killed for having the curse. There's obviously just such a creep factor when it comes to the curse and when it comes to these monsters. And, you know, there's a lot of mystery, like where did the curse come from? And just, it was a really good volume, and I am super excited to find out what happens next. I'm halfway through volume 2 and I'm loving it. Again, the art style is just, it's beautiful. It's very dark. There's a lot of like lines. I'm not an artist, so I don't know what the terminology is. It's a very interesting art style. I've never seen anything like it, and it just adds so much to the story. So yeah, I want to say I gave this 4 stars, and I'm really, really looking forward to seeing where the story goes from here. Okay, and then the last book I have to talk about is The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid. I actually finished this morning. I really liked this book. It is a very dark fairy tale. There are a lot of grimdark elements, some very gruesome scenes. I haven't read a lot of grimdark, so I don't know like kind of quite how grimdark this falls on the scale. I would say probably not too far, but there were definitely some squirmy scenes and some gruesome scenes. So if you're very sensitive to body horror, I would probably stay away from this. There's a lot of like lopping off of body parts in order to obtain magical powers and things of that nature. And it's definitely described in a way that's kind of gut clenching, you know. Yeah, just, you know, be aware of that before going into this. I just realized that I did not mention at all what this book is about. In this book, we are following our main character, Eva Kay, who is a pagan, and she grew up in a small village kind of in the middle of the woods, and she is one of the only members of her village that has no magical powers. She was born without magic, and therefore she's treated as an outcast in her village. And one day the woodsmen come to take one of the village's seers. One of the girls who can see the future has visions of the future, and Eva Kay is forced to go with the woodsman in place of their only seer in the village. And she basically has to lie and say that she is in fact a seer when she isn't, so that the village can hold on to their one and only seer. And so she is taken by these woodsmen. They're bringing her to the king so that the king can do God knows what, because the woodsmen have been coming to take members of the village for years and nobody knows what happens to them after that. She's being taken to the king. Adventure ensues. I think this is a book that is best gone into not knowing a whole lot. There is a heavy emphasis on romance, though not too heavy. I thought there was a nice balance between the romance and the plot. And yeah, again, I loved all of the folklore elements and the mythology in this book. I deeply enjoyed this world. I enjoyed the creepy forests and environments that the main character and the love interest travel through. I enjoyed all of the conversations about religion and persecution, and I don't know, I thought it was a very interesting novel. There's a lot to unpack here, and I would love to reread this one day. I thought that the writing was really, really beautiful. I will say there are just a few too many similes. There are a lot of similes, and they're beautiful. Like, they're absolutely beautiful similes that add a lot to the world building and the atmosphere and just the feeling of the story. But there are similes like every other sentence, which, look, I love a well-placed simile, okay? I love like a good metaphor, a good simile. It's, it's one of my favorite things in writing, but when there are too many of them, it starts to clog up the pacing and they start to become really distracting. And Ava Reid used similes to a point of being a bit distracting. There are a lot of them. Again, they're beautiful and well thought out, and they all make sense, at least the ones that stuck out to me. Some writers will write a lot of similes that, don't even make sense. These were very beautiful. There were just a few too many of them. I will also say that the romance didn't do a whole lot for me. It's a bit insta-lovey. It's a bit physical attraction based, which is just not something that I super relate to, and it's not something that I super just enjoy. In my books, the main character falls for the love interest like pretty early on, and it's not super clear that there's any emotional chemistry. It just seems like it's physical chemistry. She's just attracted to him because they do a lot of bickering and they do a lot of disagreeing, and they seem like they are sort of fundamentally on very different points of view on certain things. And so it's, that romance development, it didn't do a whole lot for me, but to someone else it might. And I really enjoyed the story overall. I would love for there to be more books in this world. Like, I would love to see where the story goes from here. And I will definitely be picking up Ava Reid's next novel because I thought this was really solid. Again, I liked the writing a lot. I liked the world. I did really like the main character. So yeah, I'm interested to see what she comes up with next. I gave this 4 stars. Whew, okay, that is my wrap up. That is everything that I have read recently. Please let me know what you've been reading recently. Please let me know if you've read any of these books. If you want to chat about it in the comments, I would love to do that. I hope everyone is having a wonderful holiday season. Please like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I hope to see you next time. Bye.